I want to say welcome to Dr. Mahadeo. If he's listening, if he's not, in a very short while he's here, looking all blue and very nice and everything. So I sung like Donald Trump there. Let me get on with it. He's very short and to the point with his words. Very limited vocabulary. It's a good day. He's a very bad man, and so Yog is a very good man. It's Wednesday, June the 24th, 2020, 114 days since that elections on March the 2nd. Lots of news today that we want to bring to you, to the people of Guyana, and it has to do with the court case that is there's going to be a meeting tomorrow with the Caribbean Court of Justice within the parties and the representatives, talking about preparing in preparation for the case, which is going to be July the 1st, next week Tuesday, I think it is. And so, in the meantime, what is happening here? We would have seen that major statement coming out from the Caribbean Court of Justice yesterday, warning that the parties should not do anything that's going to derail that court case. The OS also issued a very, very strong statement, warning about anything going forward. Today, in a very short while, we're going to replay for you what has been, to date, a very strong statement, a very critical statement, and we should take it very, very seriously, coming from the CARICOM chair, Mia Motley, and she is saying a lot about it, including other things, that what Keith Lowenfield would have tended there to that report yesterday to the GCOM. It is something that should not have happened. He has no authority to invalidate the votes, but we're not going to say anything. I'm going to ask in a very short while our guys in the studio to play that so you can hear, but it is a very short message to the people of Guyana, to GCOM, about the way forward. She said it very clear that it is great sadness that we've passed more than 100 days and we have not had a declaration, neither a president being sworn in. And she's insisting that no votes should be disenfranchised. Today I want to say welcome to everybody across this beautiful nation of ours for joining us on Kaieteur Radio 99.1 for this edition of Elections COVID-19 Watch. To our people overseas who've been joining us, wherever you're joining us from, thank you for tuning in as usual and for being with us, for giving us the strength every day to carry on. 100 days. It's not been easy. In fact, it's 114 days since that March 2nd elections. I want to say welcome to my co-host, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. Yog, before we head into that statement of Miss Mia Motley, the CARICOM chair, about elections 2020. Is there any statements that you would want to talk? Because there's also another statement that's coming out from the U.S., Britain, and Canada, and the European Union. A joint statement today, almost echoing what the CARICOM chair would be saying here today. So, Yog, it's all happening. Lots of pressure coming down here on the coalition not to allow anything that is going to see any declarations or even Keith Lowenfield's figures being accepted. He is in effect slashed, dumped, got rid of 25% of the valid votes. He's saying that they're no longer valid, and those figures, those very same figures, were subject of a count and then a recount, all under the watchful eyes of observers, and then CARICOM. And this was made clear by the chair, Mia Motley, in that statement today. So, Joe, quickly over to you before we go and we air that statement again.
Thank you. Indeed, Leonard, a lot of persons across Guyana. Let me say good afternoon to everyone. And a lot of us are very elated that the international community has spoken. When you listen in a few moments, as Leonard promised, we are going to let you hear that 4 minutes video from Mia Motley. However, ladies and gentlemen, when you listen to this video, it makes you feel embarrassed that as a people with over 50 years of independence behind us, we have to let other people tell us to do things right. Granger should today be ashamed, embarrassed. I don't know when he can ever show his face in public again after listening to what Maya Motley has had to say today. Leonard, this is not just the international community speaking out. This is the international community embarrassing Granger and embarrassing the APNU AFC. The whole world has seen what is happening, and they know exactly what APNU AFC is up to. So, Leonard, for me as a Guyanese, as a citizen of this country, I feel embarrassed that other countries, the leaders of other countries, have to tell a man who won the 2015 elections that stop rigging, get out, do not disenfranchise people's votes. And you know, she asked the question, a very, very, very strong statement that says that by what executive fiat did the chief elections officer determine to invalidate a vote?
And Yog, you know, one of the things, just to butt in here a little, why should we as a people have to be sitting by and allowing our international people to be telling us what to do? And why can't we have fixed it? And guess what? This is extremely shameful. And here it is. You're going to see in a very short while some spin coming out from some people that the entire ABC and EU country, the CARICOM, the local media, everybody is conspired to come up against the coalition. This is totally unbelievable where we are at the moment. And this statement by Mia Motley is something that it should not be taken or brushed aside so very easily, Yog. We have CARICOM headquarters in Guyana. This is a CARICOM chair. Our neighbor that is saying that to us.
Mm-hmm. And Leonard, the other thing too, immediately upon Madam Motley making this statement, there are a number of persons in APNU FC that has gone on the attack. Now they are saying that all of the CARICOM heads, it seems like this country has so much money. APNU AFC is saying that all of the CARICOM heads were influenced by money. In fact, I would encourage everyone, after you listen to Maya Motley, we will be sharing at some stage the link of Mr. Peter Wickham, who has expressed great surprise that a person from APNU AFC is accusing the heads of government of taking bribes. This nonsense has to stop. It's embarrassing us to no end, Leonard. No end.
And it is indeed true. So right now we're going to ask our technicians to bring you that statement. This is Mia Motley, the Prime Minister of Barbados. She's also chair of the Caribbean community, CARICOM, and we're part of CARICOM. We have our headquarters there on the railway embankment line, and she has issued a statement. It will be recalled that CARICOM fielded two teams to Guyana, one for the count for the elections on March 2nd, and then recently for that recount that we would have had, and they would have issued this statement. And here is what Mia Motley had to say today. The statement, the video statement was issued today. So we go straight into that, and when we come back, we're going to try to flush it out there. So stand by, let's bring that to you, and so you make that judgment for yourself. What is it that CARICOM is saying?
Many of us have observed with great sadness what has been transpiring in Guyana. It is more than 100 days since the people of Guyana went to the polls, and yet there is no declared result. From the very beginning, we have been clear and said consistently that every vote must count, and every vote must be made to count in a fair and transparent way. Regrettably, we have seen a level of gamesmanship that has left much to be desired and has definitely not portrayed our Caribbean region in the best light. This is definitely not our finest hour, and we must not shy away from that reality. The Caribbean community is concerned at reports that the Chief Elections Officer has submitted a report to the Guyana Elections Commission, which is contrary to the directions given by the Commission, and which does not reflect the results of the recount process as certified by the very staff of the Guyana Elections Commission, and indeed witnessed by representatives of the political parties. Indeed, these numbers and the certification of them were also witnessed by our CARICOM observer team. They traveled to Guyana in spite of the pandemic and the risk to themselves, and they scrutinized the recount process. The CARICOM Observer team was of the unshakable belief that the people of Guyana expressed their will at the ballot box on March 2nd, and that the results of the recount, certified as valid by the staff of the Guyana Elections Commission, led to an orderly conclusion on which the declaration of the results of the election could and would be made. Therefore, we must ask, on what grounds and by what form of executive fiat does the Chief Elections Officer determine that he should invalidate one vote, far less over 115,000 votes, when the votes were already certified as valid by the officers of the Guyana Elections Commission in the presence of the said political parties? We must remind all that if there is any evidence of fraudulent or improper conduct, then there is a clear and well-accepted route to deal with these matters. It is through an election petition to an election court. Any attempt to provide numbers different from those certified by the staff of the Guyana Elections Commission has left many in shock and wondering what next will happen to frustrate the will of the Guyanese people. The role and focus of political parties must be useful and not obstructive in embracing and promoting the clear and express will of the people. And when we confuse and frustrate that will is when we begin to sow the very seeds of discord and acrimony that we are sworn to dissuade and discourage. The community holds the strong view that no voter must be disenfranchised in determining the credibility of this or any election. It is this commitment to a fair and transparent political process that led CARICOM to send 2 electoral observation missions, one for the elections and one for the recount. In addition, 4 prime ministers accompanied me to talk to both sides and to urge patience, especially after the loss of one life. We thank you, the Guyanese people, for that patience. As you await the finalization of this process, we urge again that you be patient and that you be committed to the fact that no electoral process can replace the life of any Guyanese, or anyone for that matter. There must be room for all, regardless of who wins and who loses. I assure you that the community remains committed to the people of Guyana and remains resolute that the report of its observer mission was very clear in its conclusions as to the will of the Guyanese people as reflected in the recount which they monitored.
So I thank you very much there, Mia Motley, chair of the CARICOM, and she would have been sending a very strong message. Yog, let's don't beat around the bush here. This is a very, very strong statement. Keith Lowenfield has no authority to do that. He's going to disenfranchise. He has no fiat. I want to put it over to you there, Yog, and then we could come back and put it, we could have a discussion on this. What is it that she has said there generally to the people of Guyana?
Well, a few phrases stand out, in stark for attention. Look, she said, and I repeat, she said, what executive fiat? Now, remember, the chairman of CARICOM is also the highest diplomat in CARICOM at this stage. And so when she's using phrases like executive fiat and executive power, one would have to read whether she's talking about just Mr. Lowenfield or whether there is some power behind him that has done things. So, Leonard, the truth is that one cannot, there is no need to translate what she said. There is no need, those words are so strong. We must remember though, she has said clearly, it is their unshakable belief. That's her phrase, unshakable belief that these elections were properly held. She also spoke to the CARICOM observer team and that they have supervised the recount and they have given these elections a pass mark and given the recount a certification, and that the recount the declaration has to happen. I mean, who else and how else does Mr. Granger want to hear these words? Everybody else except Harman, Nagamutu, and maybe 5 or 6 of them very close to him are telling him things. Now, here is what my worry is. I am hoping, and I hate to put it like this, but I'm hoping that Madam Maya Motley would find a way to send this video directly to Granger. Because I'll tell you what will happen. In a week's time, Granger will come out of his slumber and he will say, Guyanese, what video? Somebody just gave me a piece of paper. What video you're talking about? Because he did not even see an SOP. He said he read a spreadsheet. So that's the kind of ridiculous situation we have. Whether this is going to get to the ears and eyes of Granger, we don't know, Leonard. But shame, shame, shame upon Granger and his people who continue to want to steal these elections.
Absolutely, they're yoked of some very strong statements. We're going to come back and be discussing this and other issues here today with regards to the implications of this, because as you know, we all know, we are part of CARICOM, and CARICOM, Barbados, Trinidad, we cannot just discount it. There's a headquarters as here, and they've sent 2 teams again, one for the March the 2nd elections, the other one would have come for the recount exercise. They would have issued a statement. In fact, Mia Motley has said it very clearly. I and 4 other Caribbean leaders would have been to Guyana to try to arrange for this recount. And she's saying also, this is not our finest hour. This is not, Guyana is not the finest hour. She's saying the Caribbean, for the Caribbean. So this is something that has to do with our repetition. And she's saying us, we. It's not our finest hour. She's also saying gamesmanship. She used that word there,
Yes.
Yog. Gamesmanship. Very, very strong word. It means that somebody is doing something that it looks as if it's chess being played. This is not, I mean, when we come back to it, you said a little while ago, Yog, that it is shameful what is happening. We should all hang our head in shame about this entire affair. The whole world is coming down on us. And one set of people is saying that all the world has been in cahoots, including the media, Kaieteur News and everybody is in cahoots with the opposition because they're not seeing and they're siding with the opposition to put them out of power. What absolute nonsense. What absolute nonsense. She said the evidence is there. There's a clear and there's an accepted route, Yog, in which we must be able to do certain things. There's an election petition. You take that election petition if you have an issue, and that could only go in a particular way after there's a swearing in of a president. Let us move on. She says the region is in shock. There should be no vote that should be disenfranchised. How much more do we need to say to you that the entire world is telling you, let's get on with it? It is very, very clear. Where did Keith Lowenfield pull the figures from? How did he decide that he's going to disenfranchise a quarter of the voting population, the persons that voted? 25%. 115,000. How do you do that and then walk with your head up in the air? Your 2 observation mission was sent here. Then, so we come to the other one. Gets you very angry. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Joint statement coming out here from the EU, from the US, British High Commissioner, Canada, the Ambassador of the United States of America, Sarah Ann Lynch, the British High Commissioner, Greg Quinn, the Canadian High Commissioner, Lillian Chatterjee, and the Ambassador of the European Union, Fernando Ponce Canto, are concerned that 114 days after the 2nd of March elections, the people of Guyana continue to wait the declaration of an election result. It is important in our view that every vote cast by every voter be reflected in that declaration in order to ensure that the will of the people of Guyana is respected. That respect includes an election declaration of the result that mirrors order and integrity displayed by the people of Guyana, GCOM, and party officials, as witnessed. I'm using my phone. And I did something there. 1 second. As witnessed by domestic and international observers during the 2nd of March general and regional elections. We also know that CARICOM Observer Mission, referred to as the most legitimate interlocutor by President David Granger, concluded on 15th of June that nothing we witness warrants a challenge to the inescapable conclusion that the recount results are acceptable and should constitute the basis of a declaration of results of the March 2nd, 2020 elections. We believe election results are long overdue, and in that regard, we applaud the patience and the peacefulness displayed by the people of Guyana. This is something very good for our people. This is Gildarie saying that. Pending the outcome of the appeal to the CCJ, we trust GCOM to meet the constitutional duty to issue a declaration on the basis of the results of the recount, as confirmed by CARICOM, to ensure the democratic choice of the people is fulfilled.
Many of us...
Full stop. Go ahead, Yog.
Well, Leonard, the international community spoke out following the 2nd of March. What did Mr. Granger do? He was asleep. He didn't see, he didn't hear anything. Remember, the police of Guyana actually locked GCOM building and disallowed even the international community access to supervise when they were stealing and removing those same folios and those same poll books and everything. When they were hiding it away, they closed GCOM building so that the international community couldn't see it. Mr. Granger was probably asleep. Everybody thought so, at least, because he keeps holding the sanctimonious persona out there. And then things happen, and things happen, and things happen. And we saw eventually Mr. Granger came out and endorsed everything and said he believed he won these elections from a spreadsheet. He came out live and said he believed. And when asked if he saw any SOP, he said no, he was handed a spreadsheet. After you hear all of the nonsense, you still believe in your spreadsheets. Now, let's come down to these statements. Ladies and gentlemen, it would shock you if you were to go on the United States Embassy's Facebook page, or if you were to go in some of the APNU AFC followers' pages, and you see the rotten things that they are saying in response to these statements. And those are the people we want to lead this country? Those are the people we will want to ever think of giving another chance in the future of this country? Never, never, never again. Leonard, Madam Maya Motley has spoken out. US, Canada, England, European Union has spoken out. These are the 5 top authorities that we have any trade and we have financial and other agreements with. Look, the US used to buy our sugar when we could have made it. Now PNC and APNU closing the sugar factory. They used to take our rice. They used to take every other thing that we produce as long as we could have lobbied them. The CARICOM was our customer too. Canada, UK, all of these places. Now what we are telling them, shut up, we don't want to hear from you. So when they start producing stuff in Guyana, they're going to sit and eat themselves. Oh, but wait, I forgot. They don't believe in produce anything. They believe in closing down Gaisuku and closing down rice and closing down every productive sector in this country. So coming back to your statements, these words are extremely strong. And Mr. Granger, sir, you should be very ashamed that all of Guyana today has to listen to words like this because of you and your small band of merry men that is committing fraud upon this nation. Do the right thing, Granger. Get up, wake up and get out of there and let the Guyanese people be able to move on. Let us move on with our lives. This is embarrassing, Leonard. Every time one of these international agencies speak out, it's an embarrassment to this country. But just the 10, 15 of them there, they don't have any shame and they don't feel anything. All they know is steal, thief, rob, and make their own definitions of honesty and integrity. I'm embarrassed for them.
I want to ask you a question, Yog, and I guess you would have to tell the whole world as well as Guyana that at what point in time did you engage with the opposition, the international community, to come up with a conspiracy against the coalition to bring them down? Because that's what you did. You need to explain it to me. I can't understand. And let's go through it. You want us to explain it? Let me tell you how ridiculous this thing sounds now. I've been very, very quiet. I've been watching it, but we've come to a point where I find it very insulting that we have to be sitting here looking at a statement that should have never been issued had we done things the correct way in Guyana. So you have CARICOM is making statements to us. OS is making statement to us. We have the four countries, the ABC and EU countries. They're talking to us. We have the international observers. We had so many statements coming from even the US Department. Everybody is conspired with the opposition to put the coalition out. I mean, and even you too, Yog. Even you have done that. How ridiculous does this sound?
Everybody else, everyone, Leonard, everybody.
But here is the other thing. Why is it that we're sitting here at this point in time and we want to run this country and we love this country so bad, and we're telling the people that we're subjecting this country to this entire thing, what we're experiencing here? How do we love the country and do that?
And Leonard, let me stop for a minute. Listen, Mr. Granger and his ilk, his merry band, they went around this country talking about integrity. Guyanese must remember, they never filed their own assets. The president could not have filed his own assets with the Integrity Commission. They went across campaigning integrity, honesty. Look, all they're known for, and I hate to use this phrase, but this rigging cabal, they seem to be led by the commander, the brigadier. And that is what we find happening here, Leonard. Now, the other thing that we got to say, when I see Maya Motley using some phrases, this morning I listened to Peter Wickham using some phrases. Leonard, you and I have been saying so. 3 weeks ago, we mentioned gamesmanship. Maya Motley talked about it today. 2 weeks ago, I remember I mentioned the words, and the words of intellectual dishonesty. Today, Peter Wickham is talking about the intellectual dishonesty of APNU AFC. We mentioned all of these things, the intellectual author behind Granger, and we know who is the intellectual author behind Lowenfield. But Leonard, the world leaders, look, you and I spoke about selective memories last week. They're conveniently forgetting, and they want us to forget what they have done. But forget it never. Peter Wickham spoke about it this morning, about their selective memory and their intellectual dishonesty. So ladies and gentlemen across this country, we are seeing who is the brigadier. We are seeing who is, look, let me say this very clearly. Lowenfield was a major in the armed forces of Guyana. Mr. Granger was a brigadier in the armed forces in the Army of Guyana. A lot of the Army people have come out and upon their retirement, and they today occupy a lot of public positions. Not one, except for Mark Phillips, who is in the PPP slate, not one has spoken out. I don't know where Norman McLean is today. Not one of them is speaking out. What does it tell this country about the kind of people that is in the army? What does it tell this country about the people that hold power to protect and serve us as a people? This, Leonard, teaches us a lesson, teaches us a very, very strong lesson. And you know, I'm sick and tired of hearing all these accusations about racism. I don't know how people can say, if I am accusing APNU AFC of rigging, of stealing, of thieving, I don't know what other word I can use. How is that being racist? I am accusing Moses Nagamoto. Moses, you once were under the umbrella of Chedi Jagan, man. You're an embarrassment to Chedi's name.
Well, right, and we could go on there, Yoga, and if you look at the front page of Kaieteur, and I'm going to come back to another point I want to raise in a very short while. $352 million sea defense contract awarded to BK.
Say the figure again.
$352 million sea defense contract award to BK. Top of the Kaieteur News, June the 24th edition. June the 24th, 2020. Let's start at the beginning there again. 352 million sea defense contract awarded to BK. Main headline, Lowenfield discards. Very strong word. 25% of valid votes to give coalition win. This is, well, we could come back to that. I don't even want to get into it. Hundreds of millions in post-election contracts. 7 out of 10 contracts hidden. When you went to the website of the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board, you can't access it because it's locked. You can't open it. You don't know who to give it to, what date it was things, and what are the particulars about this contract. But the contract was issued. PPP moves to the CCJ. Court freezes GCOM from declaring election results. Recount results valid for GCOM to declare. OAS says aggrieved party has to mount challenge via election petition. Same thing Mia Motley was saying not too long ago.
Yep.
Government signs away 130 acres of prime East Coast lands in one day. You have any idea what 130 acres is, Yog?
Well, I know that it's half of 200. Well, it's it's almost half of 200 and 260 or 270 at Millie's hideout.
Nissel says deals to finance $30 billion Gaisuko bond. Here the funny thing with this here. Gaisuko has no money. I'm not sure what is it that we do. And we just keep sinking ourselves. Guys, you know the funny thing is, Yog? Gaisuko is not stating, they have not come out and state what's the production. You know where we learning about the production from? From the Guyana Agriculture and General Workers Union. The Workers Union is coming out and tell us, keeping us abreast as to what Gaisuko is doing and what not doing. What are we doing? What is happening to those management of Gaisuko there? How are they living? What are they, I mean, how are they producing? How much money did you get in the last 6 months? You've been living in our houses there. What is it that you produced? At what cost? Do we know? They haven't come out with a statement. We don't know if they've tendered any kind of a report to the government, the Ministry of Agriculture, to whoever it is that they would have to do it. We haven't heard from them for the longest while. They haven't issued a statement, except when anything bad comes out, they'd be quick to issue a statement retracting or refuting it. But when it comes to the people's business as to what they're doing with the people's money, nothing. Here you have it. Government signs away 130 acres of prime East Coast lands in a day. Nissel says deals to finance $30 billion. You have any idea what $30 billion I am, Yog? I'm asking you because you're my friend. I could ask you that.
Well, 30, it's a lot. I mean, I don't know how
I
many.
think is it 120? I think it's 120 million US dollars.
Yeah, and
So
I was going to say, I don't know how
together.
many Guyanese might even have 100,000, much less $30 billion, you know?
I think it's 150 million US dollars. I can't even wrap my head around it. So nothing to show for it. So let's get back to it. There are many things. You and I could have a conversation with our good people across this beautiful land of ours. We're going to open the lines a little early today because we want to hear from them. But Yog, I'm getting a little upset that the whole world, our reputation. Do you know the amount of damage that we've done to this country? While we might not have been the richest country, we had our reputation intact, our good name. I'm not sure whenever anybody is going to think about Guyana after this. In addition to oil, they might very well think about 33, 32. I think DPI yesterday, this is the Department of what, Yog?
Department of Political Information.
Yes. They said that they give the coalition 33 seats, the opposition 32 seats, and the small party 1 seat. So we have a 66-seat parliament now. That is absolute nonsense that we have happening because they're so busy adding the maths, minus, and the thing. So it's about minus, plus, and then you have English now. So Caribbean Court of Justice next week is going to be dealing with issues of what you say, English lessons next week because we have dealt with the maths part of it. So the court is going to be, they have a lot of work cut out for them because they're going to be telling us what does valid mean. What does valid mean? You have money in your wallet, Yog? Is it valid money? I'm not sure. But there's so many things that the people of Guyana, we have so many people calling us, asking us for help, Yog. Right now, there's some pictures floating in Region 1. They've taken over the entire sports field to put tents, isolation tents. This is a conversation we should be having as to the way forward, how we should be dealing with our people. We can't deal with our people because we're fighting with elections. We're fighting with everything else, and we can't deal with the people. I think they should be coming to this radio station here, sit down, going through the phone so we can look at the text of the people and some of when they call us on the phone to hear what they're complaining about. They're complaining that they don't have things to put in the pot, they don't have any things to feed the children, they're asking for help. The people are asking the newspaper and the radio station, Kaieteur News, for help, Yog.
Yep.
What do you say to them? And so here we have CARICOM chair, Mia Motley is coming out and say that it's not our finest hour, that Yog does not have any, that they should not disenfranchise any vote at the moment. Over to you, Yog.
Thank you. And Leonard, let me just make a slight, well, not a slight, a correction. I just now said that, none of the army persons have any respect at this stage. I identify that Mark Phillips, as a former brigadier, is now out of the army, but he's with the opposition side. And so I excluded him from that. And as you know, Mr. Jerry Gavaya, Captain Jerry Gavaya, has also been on the forefront, identifying the fraud and identifying everything there. He has also been an observer during these elections. So I wish to say that excepting for Captain Jerry Gavaya, Mark Phillips, and maybe a few that I don't know of, the army seems to be silent, and in their silence, it means they're backing what is happening here. I wish to also point out to your headlines that you read out there, Leonard. Look, 130 acres land giveaway. Now, and they're saying that they're giving this set. Remember, they're not talking about the other set that you were identifying in the newspapers yesterday and so forth. They're not talking about the lands up at Diamond and all over the place. They're talking about this set here, like as if they're looking for public sympathy. Oh, we're selling it to get money for Gaisuku. Well, that doesn't make sense. Did you have an overdraft? Did you have a facility in place for Gaisuku already? Why are you, and how much did you use up? My understanding, Leonard, is that they had a 30, they used up only about half of it.
I think $8 or $9 billion.
Where is the other half? Where is the other half? So when they're telling these things, they need to be very factual. And also, Leonard, APNO AFC would need to account for hundreds of millions of dollars of Gaisuku money, because we want to know where the first 17 billion was, what was it spent on? Because APNO AFC has gotten that money, it's their board, and they use it, and they need to account for every single thing. I know the PPP has said no witch hunt. Well, I don't see any witches over there, so I'm not going to call it a witch hunt. But they have to account for the people's money. No more are we going to allow these things to happen. Leonard, just quickly, if I can say this, since October 1, 2019, when the CCJ ruled this government a caretaker government, every sickness and every death in this country that happened from then to now, that needed attention, needed medication at the hospitals and couldn't get. People are going with serious problems at the hospitals and only getting Panadol. I will hold the APNO AFC responsible for all of this. They have no shame, and they have caused untold harm, not just to the psyche of the people, but to the very health of people.
Absolutely. And coming back to NISIL, somebody sent us a text. NISIL was established under the Public Corporation Act to administer the assets of the dysfunctional state-owned corporations. Any disposal of these assets has to be approved by government through cabinet decision. Since the passing of the NCM, the no confidence motion, and the ruling of the CCJ on the no confidence motion, there is no government nor cabinet in place. Hence, the disposal of these lands are illegal. that's somebody that's sending it there. The government would have said that there is a cabinet in place. It is working, and so there seems to be a direct contradiction what's happening. In a very short while, I've been asked, we've been receiving some requests to play back Mia Motley Yog, because it's such an important statement. We're going to be playing back that statement there, so we could be able to tell the people who would have missed it, to bring it to the people of Guyana. So that is going to come in a very short while. In the meantime, this is Kaieteur Radio Elections and COVID-19 Watch. Myself, Leonard Gildarie, and Dr. Yog Mahadeo, bringing to you the latest. Tomorrow, the Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, is to have a meeting with lawyers representing the various parties for that appeal to the Court of Appeal decision that was made early this week. And so tomorrow they're having a meeting in preparation for the substantial court case next week. Lawyers are saying within a couple of days or shortly after then, there is going to be a quick decision by the CCJ. They expect it not to be very long. So we have this week and next week. We don't expect nothing much to be done by GCOM. GCOM is awaiting that decision by the CCJ. The lawyers would have been talking to us. Sanjeev Dattanen would have been with us, and we would have had Kamal Rampuran and others who saying that they don't expect this is at the end of the road for Keith Lowenfield and the shenanigans and whatever it is that you could use to describe his actions. And this absolute ridiculous situation of slicing, discarding, dumping 25% of the valid votes to give the coalition a win. And CARICOM this morning would have come out, Mia Motley, chair of CARICOM, the body of which we're part of, has come out this morning and says there's absolutely no-no, that the Caribbean is not seeing this as the finest hours. In fact, he has no authority to disenfranchise any voters. If the coalition have any issues, please take it to an elections petition which has to be filed. There's a specific format for that. This cannot be that you decide off your own to take out 25% of the voters in the country. Very serious business. Mr. Lowenfield, you've done something that is very, very wrong. You not only should be ashamed of yourself, there should be moves forthwith after this to see whether there's any criminal charges for what you have done. And so we are, Yog, I've been asked by management to have a replay of Mia Motley's statement. Let's do that. When we come back, we're going to go straight to the lines.
Has been transpiring in Guyana. It is more than 100 days since the people of Guyana went to the polls, and yet there is no declared result. From the very beginning, we have been clear and said consistently that every vote must count, and every vote must be made to count in a fair and transparent way. Regrettably, we have seen a level of gamesmanship that has left much to be desired and has definitely not portrayed our Caribbean region in the best light. This is definitely not our finest hour, and we must not shy away from that reality. The Caribbean community is concerned at reports that the Chief Elections Officer has submitted a report to the Guyana Elections Commission, which is contrary to the directions given by the Commission, and which does not reflect the results of the recount process as certified by the very staff of the Guyana Elections Commission, and indeed witnessed by representatives of the political parties. Indeed, these numbers and the certification of them were also witnessed by our CARICOM observer team. They traveled to Guyana in spite of the pandemic and the risk to themselves, and they scrutinized the recount process. The CARICOM observer team was of the unshakable belief that the people of Guyana expressed their will at the ballot box on March 2nd, and that the results of the recount, certified as valid by the staff of the Guyana Elections Commission, led to an orderly conclusion on which the declaration of the results of the election could and would be made. Therefore, we must ask, on what grounds and by what form of executive fiat does the Chief Elections Officer determine that he should invalidate one vote, far less over 115,000 votes, when the votes were already certified as valid by the officers of the Guyana Elections Commission in the presence of the said political parties. We must remind all that if there is any evidence of fraudulent or improper conduct, then there is a clear and well-accepted route to deal with these matters. It is through an election petition to an election court. Any attempt to provide numbers different from those certified by the staff of the Guyana Elections Commission has left many in shock and wondering what next will happen to frustrate the will of the Guyanese people. The role and focus of political parties must be useful and not obstructive in embracing and promoting the clear and express will of the people. And when we confuse and frustrate that will, is when we begin to sow the very seeds of discord and acrimony that we are sworn to dissuade and discourage. The community holds the strong view that no voter must be disenfranchised in determining the credibility of this or any election. It is this commitment to a fair and transparent political process that led CARICOM to send 2 electoral observation missions, one for the elections and one for the recount. In addition, 4 prime ministers accompanied me to talk to both sides and to urge patience, especially after the loss of one life. We thank you, the Guyanese people, for that patience. As you await the finalization of this process, we urge again that you be patient and that you be committed to the fact that no electoral process can replace the life of any Guyanese, or anyone for that matter. And who loses. I assure you that the community remains committed to the people of Guyana and remains resolute that the report of its observer mission was very clear in its conclusions as to the will of the Guyanese people as reflected in the recount which they monitored.
Thank you very much for joining us there. That would have been CARICOM Chair Mia Motley. Very strong statement coming from the CARICOM Chair Mia Motley there. She's also the Prime Minister of Barbados. Great sadness, 100 days since declarations. Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield has no authority whatsoever, doesn't have the mandate on what authority did she have, or what fiat did he use to make that declaration, which would have sliced, which would have dumped, which would have discarded 25% of the voters, and then he would have declared based on what he came up with. He pulled the rabbit out of a hat. He did magic and came up with those numbers. And there is a statement, Yog, I'm not sure if you've seen a statement coming from the private sector now, and which is equally as harsh. I must say to you that it is public knowledge that in direct defiance of the requests of the chairman of GCOM in her letter of June the 16th, Keith Lowenfield refused to respond to the chairman on the specious ground that he served a notice of an application which was before the Court of Appeal on the matter, even though he has not been injuncted by the court. Keith Lowenfield has now responded to the chair of CARICOM, stating that he's acting on the guidance of the Court of Appeal in the preparation of the report. The Court of Appeal has in fact given no such guidance, nor has it given direction to the Chief Elections Officer. Keith Lowenfield has now presumed to act on the decision of the Court of Appeal, which has been stayed and has no effect at all. Yog, what the private sector is basically saying there is that we have a renegade officer, we have a rogue officer of the Guyana Elections Commission, and he's clearly stepped out of his jurisdiction, out of his duties, and without listening to the instructions of his chair, of his employers, he's decided to do his own thing. And so they're very, very harsh in that. And everybody is saying now that this is beyond ridiculous. We need to fix this. And while there's a court case and we wait that court case, lots of condemnation coming down now on Keith Lowenfield. Over to you, Yoga. Where do we go from here?
Harsh, it's not even harsh enough. The harshness that must be meted out to Mr. Lowenfield is to stand in the box in front of a judge. That will be and has to be what the Guyanese people must demand. Leonard, you know what is extremely sad at this stage? Both you and I regardless of how we have evaluated Madam Chairman's disposition in managing the affairs of GCOM, both you and I know her, and we know her to be extremely professional in not just her own mannerism, but in the way she conducts herself and her duties. And Lowenfield and Mingo have brought a lot of shame on Madam Chairman Claudette Singh. Can you imagine, ladies and gentlemen, what it would be like to be in Claudette Singh's shoes at this stage? On one hand, APNU AFC know they lost and they refuse to concede. On the other hand, APNU AFC has used Mingo. They have used everybody at GCOM, other than Claudette Singh at this stage, to thwart the will of the electorate. Madam Claudette Singh is not blind. She's not deaf. She's very astute, as a matter of fact. She's not been a judge and has all that years behind her for nothing. She knows exactly what she's seeing. But the point is, Leonard, all of this places her in a very, very, very untenable and uncomfortable position. Because whenever she makes her decision and makes a declaration, what will happen? APNU AFC is going to probably bring slow fire, more fire, and they're going to blame her. I mean, she cannot do anything right or wrong for everybody at this stage. This is the only elections maybe where the loser around the world, where the loser just refuse to accept their losing. And in meanwhile, every day they're sharing out lands, they're sharing out state assets, they're continue to loot this country. So I feel, and we must say a prayer for Madam Claudette Singh, because she is in a terrible position at this stage, Leonard.
So what should be the situation now, York? So should we pull out of the CCJ? Should we pull out of the Caribbean Court of Justice? Should we pull out of the Organization of American States? Should we pull out of CARICOM? Should we say move your headquarters, pick up every brick and mortar that you have there and take it out of Guyana? Should we say to the Americans and the Canadians and whoever, the British people, as well as the European Union, to please pack your bags and leave? What should we do? What are we saying to these people right now, York? Because they're all saying to you that you're wrong.
Of course. Leonard, the sad thing is that when you go back to 2015, not so long ago, you go back to 2015, you were seeing the same Granger and the same Bassel-Williams and all of these people that parading now. They were then dependent on the same United States and Canada and CARICOM. They were dependent on them, used them, and now they're saying, get out, get out. We are what? We are sovereign state. But you see, Leonard, the truth is, you're asking, what should we do? Well, that is maybe what a handful of people want to do. The handful of people probably want to write to Donald Trump and say, listen, don't build your wall across the Mexican border. Come build a wall around Guyana, because we don't need anybody. We don't need anybody. We don't need CARICOM. We don't need Trinidad. We don't need Barbados. We don't need US, Canada, UK, anybody. We want to remain here in a little hole of $90 billion that we're going to dig, and we're going to throw everybody into it and pick up a placard and say, the good life for a couple. That's what they want. But that is the thing, Leonard. That is what they want. And the people of this country spoke on the 2nd of March, and we are going to speak. You and I have been on this every day, and we are going to continue to speak until they get out of there in shame. If they don't want to go out in glory, Mr. Granger has already lost that opportunity. He has already given up and lost that opportunity. He cannot go out in glory anymore. But every day, everyone in this country, as long as you believe in God, as long as you believe you're a right-thinking Guyanese, you must give them a boo. You must shame Granger and his cabal for doing this to Guyana and bringing such embarrassment upon our people, Leonard. We got to shame them every single day. I would love to see Kaieteur News tomorrow front page. as a big shame Granger on his front page. That must now be our headline.
Yog, it is unbelievable. It is. The more I'm thinking about it, looking at this thing here, how does one man take it upon himself to say that all Guyana? He's saying that 25% of the people that voted, they have no standing in Guyana. They're not people, because when you take away, they're not citizens of Guyana. When you take away half a quarter of the voters, I can't understand what would come in Keith Lowenfield here to do this kind of thing. And you know the funny thing is, well, I can't say that on here, but I'm going to say that in maybe in another piece. But the funny thing is that, oh, let's leave that, joke.
Well, Leonard, let me interject. Look, I want Guyanese to remember a couple things. From the time the NCM passed, we saw the true nature of Granger and his team. From that time the NCM was passed, and they have lost all semblance of decency from then. From then to now, Leonard, look at that team. Who distinguished themselves? You would have seen Mr. Gaskin distinguish himself. Anybody else you can think of? Today, you have seen Mr. C.N. Sharma distinguish himself and pull himself out. Now, when you look at what has transpired and where they are taking this country, we have to ensure that the country must not be held at ransom. Leonard, how much time can we say it? And I know that you and I get very emotional when you look at what's happening. But what Granger and his team is doing is beyond. And it is left, you know what? It is left to the media to expose them at every turn of the way. We are not going to rest until decency comes back and prevails over this land.
Absolutely, dear Yoke. So if you're now joining us, it's Elections COVID-19 Watch here on Kaieteur Radio 99.1, 99.5 FM. You could also get us on YouTube, on Facebook, or if you want to tune in right now, Kaieteur News Online. I want to say hello to everybody who's joined us from wherever you're joining us from, right across North America, Europe, the Caribbean here, right in Trinidad, Brazil. I want to say hello to Brazil there. Have a good day. I hope that you remain safe, that you protect yourself. But Yoke 226-7453, 226-7453. We want to hear from our people today, and of course you could text us, WhatsApp us, 622-222. Let us keep these comments short. Let us talk about elections 2020. Let's talk about COVID-19. And so, Yoga, I think we're going to head straight into the lines. Good day. You on to Kaieteur News, Kaieteur Radio, sorry.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, sir.
Yes, this thing with Lowenfield is so sickening. This man, like, he's mad. How, like, it's total blatant disregard for the law. And you know, once you start disregard the laws of society, is how society starts decaying. How could you invalidate? You don't supposed to even have the authority to do such thing, right? But think about it. You're invalidating my vote because of somebody else's mistake or something at the election polling station. My constitutional right, you're taking away from me because of somebody incompetence. What is wrong with these people? They're just dragging Guyana through the mud. I don't know when it will stop. But injustice is always a means to an end. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, caller. Yog, we are going to read a couple of messages. Why has the police not yet been involved in the investigation of Lowenfield and Mingo saga? Guyana cannot be held a ransom to these people. Good question. The thing is that they haven't been a complaint as yet. As at this point in time, they're trying to deal with elections issues. But I think somewhere along the line, anybody who takes it upon themselves to take off 25% of the valid voters in Guyana should be investigated, and they should be charges. This is beyond ridiculous. Beyond ridiculous now. Good afternoon. I want to say to all those people that campaigned with the AFC against the PPP in 2011, 2015, they put Guyana in the mess, knowing that the history of the PNC, all is done because of power. I'm not sure whether I totally agree with that. People would have voted because they believed in whatever party that they would have been back in. At that point in time, the PPP was in there, and they were voted out because of their performance. And so, but I think people should know that too. That's history. Good afternoon, guys. If you listen to what Mia Motley said, Guyana is not just embarrassing ourselves, but we're embarrassing the entire Caribbean. It was so full on point. She's saying it's not our finest hour yet. Yog, come back to Mia Motley, what she would have said there. It's not our finest hour at the moment. She's not speaking for Guyana. She's speaking on behalf of the entire Caribbean. This entire situation here, we see today on the front page of Kaieteur News here, Surinam's about to say accept results of elections. Implications. Let's talk implications of what Guyana situation is to CARICOM and the peace, the zone of peace, and political peace, if you want to talk about that. How worried is CARICOM over this entire situation?
Leonard, extremely worried. But let me just pause for a minute to say this. Mr. Bautisser, or Bautis as a lot of people call him, has proven to be a much better man than Granger is. I mean, the man got licks at his elections, and he and his party accepted that they lost, and they moved on. And have you seen the statement they make, Leonard? They made a statement, Bautis and his party made a statement to say, let us continue to put Suriname first. That is, I mean, the man spoke like a leader, his party spoke like a leader, and for sure, for whatever his background is, Bautis seems to be a far better gentleman than David Granger. Now, the consequences of what we have ongoing here, Leonard, I want to say it in two parts. One, Leonard, a lot of Guyanese travel. When this COVID-19 is over, a lot of people in Guyana, they try to get their visa, they try to travel. Everybody nowadays try to save a little bit of money whenever they can and either go visit a Caribbean country or go visit the United States or Canada or somewhere. Everybody would love to travel who hasn't traveled as yet. I want to ask, Leonard, you have traveled. I want to ask you this, Leonard, in answering your question. When you travel the next time and you are in front of the immigration officer, won't you be thinking, I wonder what this man thinking about me? Because I come from Guyana. Every time you look and you walk through an airport and people say you're from Guyana, in your mind, you would think they're laughing at you. And indeed, they will be laughing at us. What these people have done is ensure that Guyana's name and Guyana's people will be laughed at for generations to come. Can you tell me one country, especially after people like Mia Motley and everybody else would have spoken out? Where can we go and visit now, Leonard, and be decent and not have people laugh at us? This is what Granger has done to us as a people. This is what Mr. So-called integrity and decency has done to this country. Leonard, they have no shame. Well, but the shame that the Guyanese people are feeling is terrible. Now, the consequences, we know what they are. And I've said it. Look, they want to say we are a sovereign state. Nobody must tell us what to do, but you need them to come drill your oil. You need them to buy your sugar. You need them to buy your rice. You need them to buy everything that you are producing. So if you're sovereign, you should make it and eat it yourself. But it is terrible that they're speaking with twisted tongue. They're speaking with twisted tongue, knowing what the truth is, but speaking conveniently outside the truth. They are delusional. Well, it's beyond delusional. Now it's rank criminality that is taking place. They just don't care what happens to the rest of the people as long as they are in power and they continue their fancy lifestyles.
Absolutely. And I'm looking at my phone here. Imran Khan, Department of what, Yog?
Department of Political Information.
Yes, Imran Khan, and he's sending WhatsApp. He spends his time the entire day swearing President Granger now beautiful picture with the President David Granger. He goes up here. The black and white facts of Guyana elections. Elections were held in March. I read this so you could understand, instead of doing the people's work with the National COVID Task Force, which he is the, I think, the PR person there. He's sending out the recount uncovered massive fraud. Massive fraud in favor of the opposition PPP in the strongholds. It's a sin. It would be, I think I'd be breaking the laws to read the nonsense that he has put
Leonard, that
here.
man has no morality.
Absolute nonsense.
None at all. His face is an example of what fraud and absence of morality is. So he has no way, no moral ground upon which to speak. I'll tell you something. These were the same people in 2015 that used to tell Guyanese, used to beg people that let everybody be whistleblowers, share out what secrets are going on. Remember them during those days, Leonard? They used to get people from the ministries, say, be a whistleblower, tell us what's going on. Tell us everything what's going on, and they would expose it. But when Kaieteur News is now exposing the land that they're stealing, it's a problem. When Kaieteur went,
it's a problem for who you?
Media house,
who's a problem? It's the two people talking about it. The entire Guyana is watching on and the reading. If they want to stop buying the newspaper, let them call Glenn and the ads. I mean, that's what they talk to them. Guess who's talking? Imran Khan and a couple of them will talk the nonsense, hide behind a keyboard. Stop this absolute nonsense that you're all doing in there. Stop. Madness. Quarter of the votes.
Mind you, they continue to steal the taxpayers' money. And that is another lawsuit that has to be filed. Because from the first time, from the closure of the March the 2nd, they knew they lost. They had their SOPs and they remain in office and they're stealing taxpayers' money as their salaries. And they have to refund all of that to the state. I don't care about the PPP saying they're not going to do witch hunting. The people of this country is going to demand that all of the money they're now stealing, they got to return it. They're earning monies fraudulently. It is under false pretenses. And all the Guyana RAG is doing, Leonard, the Guyana RAG is spending all the time in pushing filth. Look, I'm even more embarrassed to say this. When you go into His Excellency, when you go into the Brigadier's page, in case you didn't hear me well, let me say it back. When you go onto the Brigadier's page, you find he is trolling the CCJ. I mean, to what depth are we going to go now? So all decency and morality has been totally lost from them, Leonard.
Absolutely, Yog. And very quickly, good afternoon, Yog and Leonard. I think the international community should start to institute sanctions on these individuals who's involved and beneficiaries of electoral fraud. This is coming to our WhatsApp 6222222. Keep sending messages. We're going to try to read as much as possible. We have scores of messages coming through right now. We can call us 226-7453. There's a caller online. Good afternoon, caller, you're on the air.
Hi.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Gildarie.
Good afternoon.
I'm a concerned citizen and I listen to your program every day, you and Mr. Yo.
Yes.
To be honest, I want to ask, what have the chair, Ms. Fladdock Singh, has done when CEO had produced this statement to her? Did she ever look into it and say that this is not what we're looking for and this is not the right statement you should bring out here? Or all these people are colluding with each other, with the PNC and everything, and do their own stuff? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't think the chair, to answer your question right off, and maybe I could invite Dr. Yoke to come in here, but I don't think that the chair was even entertained or looked at. It hasn't been looked at or considered by the commission, the 6 commissioners, as well as the chair. It has been put, how you say it, in abeyance, but Yoke, you may want to talk about that right quickly.
Yeah, well, he is not, remember, he has to present the report to the commission. And so we would presume that a commission meeting may be held. Tomorrow would be the 3rd day, Leonard. However, we do know that the CCJ would have now instructed GCOM to not do anything that would prejudice its own deliberations. So GCOM, the commission, has not met as a body, and so his report would not have been officially received by the commission or officially read or considered. There has been no official consideration of the report. It's just like you send a mail and it's in the mailbox and it's there waiting for somebody to read it.
Yes, absolutely. We should could one say that ordinary criminal charges will not do for these individuals, that we should bump it up to treason charges? I don't know, the treason is a very serious thing, but I would want to ask this question: who would be belling the cat right now, Yog? Somebody has to take the decision right away to send Keith Lowenfield home. They could be absolutely.
Well, Leonard,
we don't
but
have.
Here is the big. Yeah, here is the big question. If you send Keith Lowenfield home, you're going to end up in another problem, because guess who will take over the job?
Yeah, but we need to start. Where do you start, Yog? Do you keep him there after seeing this madness here that you're seeing here?
No, but here is my point. Here is my point. Lowenfield has to do his job. Lowenfield does not have to do a job that Mr. Granger or Harmon or someone is advising him. He's a creature of the commission and of the electoral laws. He cannot, let me say this very clearly, all this talk about valid votes. Lowenfield is not a court to go investigate what votes are valid or not. What Lowenfield did, he took the instructions from APNO AFC and he decided, okay, these votes are not valid. He didn't check, he didn't validate, he didn't investigate. He didn't do a thing. Remember, the Commissioner of Police's report was not directed to Lowenfield, so even Lowenfield doesn't have that. Lowenfield has no evidence in his possession to disenfranchise any voter. Lowenfield has to get the numbers for the recount, and Maya Motley said it right, that those numbers as certified by the CARICOM Observer team, those are the numbers. So he has to do his job. If you go and you send, at this stage, my own humble view, if you send Lowenfield home, now his deputy is going to come in and do the same thing again, or do worse. And we are pushing back the timeline, pushing back. More lands are going to be sold, more contract. How much is the rental for Ocean View at this stage? $52 million. You know, so more things are going to happen. How much is the contract that they gave away for you read earlier? 1/3 of $1 billion, $352 million. So more and more. What they need to do is they need to tell Lowenfield, this is the numbers, you brought it. Let me say this finally, Leonard. Lowenfield already advised the chair of the commission. In his first report, he advised the commission with the numbers. He cannot change those numbers. What he has to do is to apply the sections of the law to use those numbers that he already advised the commission to now come up with what the seats are in the National Assembly. He cannot go throw away. And remember, the writing was on the wall. David Hines, weeks ago, he called, and Kaieteur News should bear some responsibility for it, for publishing some of the trash, right? Because he called that burn the ballot boxes. Well, that is what Lowenfield has done. He decided he want to burn up some of the votes, 115,000, not one or two. So, Leonard, I would beg to humbly disagree. I think Lowenfield has to be advised that he has to do his job. And maybe they have to go and do what they did to Mingo, go to the High Court, and say, please instruct Mr. Lowenfield how to interpret valid votes, how to interpret what he has to do, and Lowenfield has to do that. Nothing else, nothing more.
Thank you very much, dear Dr. Yog Mahadeo. And I think we go straight to the phone lines again. Good afternoon, caller. You on the air?
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
I noticed, Mr. Gildarie, that today you're getting a bit upset, which is rightly so. You've been on this for a long while, and most of us are upset. As I enjoy your company as I do my job every day, I don't like to hear you upset, but I'd like to make a few points and a few comments, and let's few comments off here. First one is, I have never, in the history of my life and in the history of every book that I've ever read, have found that any article agreed on by anybody commands the Constitution to change the word. The Constitution is what commands the people. I'm talking about the order that the judges use to correct the Constitution. That is totally wrong. If anybody had any doubts about Mr. Lewis realizes or where he lied, whether he was in defense or not, you know now. One of the things that I'm sure of, I have a lot of friends. I say friends in inverted commas, who, for reasons that are not know that I've no lost and wrong, and they're supportive of them. But one of them, and this is something I'd like the people to remember and understand. The fears of what happened under their rule, whether they did it, whether they were hands or involved or not, it's the fears that are driving the small man and are staying silent, even though they are annoyed at what Abner is doing, because they don't know what this 5 years is going to be like. For the rest of Guyana, I always assume that everybody read and understand things like I read and understand. The reason why the whole international community needs to voice their opinion is not because they get paid or because they want we aisle. We are a part of the CARICOM, starting from CARICOM. Whenever we are on a board, we represent the CARICOM as an international community. If we're going to say anything that is credible, we must not be able for anybody that we're correcting to point back fingers at us. And if Guyana is doing this, we cannot be a part of CARICOM as much as they love us. When we are part of the Commonwealth, we sit on boards and we discipline other people and tell people they're going wrong. And if we are doing this, we can't be a part of the Commonwealth. And so on and so forth with the UN and everywhere. And that is the only reason why everybody has a right to say, because we are signatories to all of these reasons, and we said that we are a democratic nation, and that's how we became a part of these organizations. So it has nothing to do with bribes. Nobody wants to move Guyana. Nobody wants Guyana off of the Commonwealth, the OAS, or CARICOM. But if you continue operating this way, you're infecting the integrity of CARICOM, the integrity of the OAS, the integrity of the Commonwealth. And that is what Guyanese need to understand. Thirdly, and finally, when everybody's talking about the appealing court is the final court, when we sign on as a signatory to accept the Caribbean Court of Justice of the highest court in the CARICOM, that trumps the appellant court. Please check our laws that we sign on. So don't be a people in this nation that just listen to things and do not understand. Check, and you will understand. Thank you very much. Let's see your comments up here.
Thank you very much. Right on thing. We're not in isolation. We can't be in isolation at any part. We're part of so many organizations, the United Nations, CARICOM, the OAS, the Commonwealth. It goes on and on. And so when they speak, we have to listen, because it has to do with our credibility here. We sit in at the various boards, and I think what you've said there, caller, is so much what we have been saying, what Yog and I have been saying all along. Our repetition is at stake here. But I think for me, what is so very, very upsetting is that one man has decided that he's going to shoulder the blame, because who else are we to point fingers to except Keith Lowenfield today for taking 25% of all the valid votes? Take it away with one fell swoop. He's taken it away, and he is disenfranchised 115,000 persons, quarter of the voting, the persons who voted. Yog, maybe you want to comment on what the caller would have said?
Yes, and the caller is, of course, right, too, because, you know, how often do you ever see a constitution playing second fiddle to a subsidiary legislation? In this case, you know, the Court of Appeal, in their learned wisdom, would have inserted words into the Constitution that were not there. Mind you, Leonard, I think Anil Nandlal would have explained it correctly. Let me just repeat what he said. The example he gave was very good. When the Court of Appeal sought to insert the word valid into the Constitution, it may have not considered, or it may have considered, it just didn't matter. But what had happened, the respective article would have had total votes cast. As far as everybody is concerned, except a handful of the riggers, total votes cast means total valid vote cast. And Mr. Nandlal had used the following, he had used the analogy of money. If there is a section of the law that says you'll be fined $20,000 for a breach of something on the road. Does the law have to state you have to pay $20,000 valid money or legal money? The law doesn't describe the money. The money can only be legal money, can only be valid votes. So GCOM's procedures and the electoral laws would have gotten such things in place that would take out invalid votes. If you spoil your ballot, it's gone one side. If you sign your name on it and so it's deemed spoiled, it goes one side. If it's a blank ballot, it goes one side. If you defaced it, it goes one side. The process is, so when the Court of Appeal inserted the word valid, it basically, Lowenfield saw that as his authority to translate it how he wanted. And what he wanted was to give APNU AFC a win that the electorate did not give them. So Lowenfield himself has subject Guyana to a lot of fraud. And this man, if people are right to say, if we think Mingo was bad, here is wicked. That one was bad, but this one is beyond bad. This one is just pure wicked. Mr. Major, you're a disgrace to the post you held in the army, man. I don't know how else I can say it, Leonard.
Well, I don't know why you're calling for him to be knocked up, because he has to be sent home suspended. It's unbelievable. We pray in here every single night and day for the truth to prevail. We stand united and undivided as a prayer force to get the squatting government out. And this is coming from a text that one of our people, one of our listeners, one of our viewers would have been sent. A question to Yog. If Lowenfield does not have the legal authority to invalidate my vote, what is the legal way forward for 115,000 voters to field criminal charges with the ICC? I think this is the International Criminal Court. Does this constitute crime against humanity? I'm not sure how to answer that, Yog.
Well, the answer, let me tell you something. The UN Charter, to which Guyana is a signatory, affords every person a vote. So the person is right. For Lowenfield to decide to take away your vote contravenes a United Nations Charter. This thing has a lot of repercussions, and Mr. Major Lowenfield is just listening to a handful of people probably to protect something, and he is doing all of this. But Leonard, we have to also one day be talking and examining and bringing it out explicitly who the intellectual authors are for Mr. Lowenfield and Mr. Mingo's behavior. I mean, we all know who they are, but we are not as yet discussing it in public as explicitly as we ought to. And that will happen as soon as the real results are declared. So we now, having gotten the recount, we knew the world knows what Mingo did was fraud. It was the recount that proved that to be a fraud. And of course, Madam Claudette Singh's declaration will show Lowenfield's numbers as being the fraud it is.
Absolutely, and she will have to do the right thing. It is imperative for her reputation that she protects herself to protect the rest of Guyana from this madness, this absolute ridiculous situation. 25%. Here's a comment. Did you ever pause to consider why the voters turnout is so high above the national average? If there is a rigging, it would have been done in their strongholds. They would have done what they did. They're factoring their every action into the PPPC. Brace yourself for coup d'etat. I live in exile in Jamaica for 35 years. At every turn I was made to feel second class. It was never a nice experience. Somebody from overseas is saying that. There's a caller online. Good afternoon, caller. You on the air?
Hello?
Yes, sir. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Gildarie. Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead. Did we lose it? Apologies here. I think we lost that call there. And so, Yog, it is continuing. If you've joined us now, elections COVID-19 watch here on Kaieteur Radio 99.1, 99.5. In case you would have missed it, there's a very harsh statement coming out there from CARICOM today. Mayor Motley, the chair of CARICOM, would have been warning the Guyana Elections Commission about accepting anything that would see any vote being disenfranchised. She's also said today that what Keith Lowenfield has done as a chief elections officer by shaving off, by dumping 25% of the voters, there's 115,000 person votes gone to nil, gone zilch. That is totally unacceptable what he's done there. And she did point out that CARICOM would have fielded 2 teams to Guyana, one for the March the 2nd elections. They came before, and one for the recount, and they stayed right through the entire procedures. And so for that recount there, it is no ordinary thing that they would have seen, and they would have given it a clean bill of health in terms of what they saw and those results. And therefore they're saying this has taken Guyana down a very bad road there. It's not the finest hour for Caribbean. And so we're going to play in a very short while. We've been asked by management to do that, for you to understand, for you to make your own conclusions as to how serious the situation is. This morning we would have also had the four nations, that is the US, British, Canada, and the EU coming out with a statement almost mirroring what CARICOM is saying. We would have had the CCJ coming out yesterday. The OAS would have come out with a statement yesterday. This morning, not too long ago, the Private Sector Commissioner would have been warning. This is absolute madness what would have happened here. So, Yog, I think we go back to the line. Good afternoon, caller, you're on the air. Yes, good afternoon, caller, you're on the air.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, Mr. Gildarie, Mr. Yog. I have just one question for you guys. Let's just say that the results are credible and the elections and Mr. Granger is sworn in. Tell me, who within the international bodies will recognize Mr. Granger? Who would want to do a business with him?
Okay, thank you very much. That's the question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. We take it off here. Well, I think you've answered your own question there. Who would want to do it? Yog, you want to try that?
Yeah. I guess the caller intentioned it as a rhetorical question. Yes, indeed.
Is.
Who would ever want to? And, I think what APNO FC, I wish to say this very openly, I think APNO FC is banking on a couple of things. They're banking on Cuba and the relationship they have with Cuba, and they're banking on, guess who? Russia. They're banking on Russia.
Who's banking on Russia?
But they have severely, based on my understanding and reading of a couple of things, they have severely negatively impacted their relationship with Russia with the accusation of the Russian interference. So now the only persons they're left with seems to be Cuba. But remember, Leonard, Cuba sent medical team all over the world to help them with COVID. Not one was sent to Guyana. So that speaks a lot about what Cuba thinks about Guyana as well. So I don't know who else. I think they believe that they have a strong relationship with China. Remember all the monies and all the deals and so forth with China. But we also got to look at what's been happening with China and the world over, and how China would have wanted to basically take over businesses in many countries. So they're only going to be left with probably their relationship with China. They're going to probably start hustle to get relationship with some of their Middle East countries and maybe, Korea, some of those countries that are already under sanctions from the rest of the world. They will now become allies with those types of countries.
Well, I'm not sure. That's a conversation for another day.
And you might see in short order. I don't mean this in any way other than political, but you will see in short order if they swear in. You'll see, you're going to see mass games. You're going to see all of these things start to back, Leonard.
Are we seriously considering swearing in when the CARICOM is waiting, the Caribbean Court of Justice is waiting to have a thing? I'm hoping not that's not something that's been contemplated. And let us say that all the media seems to be against the coalition. Everybody has conspired to take them on because they have an agenda. I'm not sure. We want to have an agenda. There's a few people who've been pushing this agenda, and we all know who they are. So we have no issues of you backing your own political party. We would want you to back 25% of the valid votes being erased, being discarded, being dumped. Good afternoon, sir. Could we, the citizens of this country, take Lowenfield to court for electoral fraud? Our rights must not be slaughtered by a few criminals. Our rights must not be slaughtered by a few criminals. So that's coming from one of our listeners or viewers. Thank you very much. Mr. Yog Gildarie is saying Mr. Yog is saying based on the Lowenfield report, there's serious repercussions. Could you say the prison terms for this? Do we have a prison terms, or could you elaborate a little on that, Yog?
Well, it depends. They will have to be taken to court, because remember, you could argue a lot of things. There is breach of electoral laws. There is fraud. It's clear. And so a lot of more things might come under that. We have had a little deliberation, a short deliberation by Mr. Datilin last night in room 592. And we're certainly looking forward to have a continued, more explosive discussion on what repercussions, criminal and otherwise, that can be borne upon these perpetrators of electoral fraud. Also, Leonard, the question would need to be asked, if this travesty continues and it so end up, Leonard, hear me out, it so end up that GCOM declares the PPPC win as the winner, the PPPC as a winner, that is an strong evidence that APNU FC has blatantly tried to rig. We all know that they did, but the declaration is going to prove it. It's going to be the nail in that coffin. I would like the lawyers to advise us whether we can now contemplate going to the court to disband a criminal enterprise that is called coalition, to disband that they must never get together again. Because you know what? If a corporation engages in criminal activity, the state has a say in its future. And we have to now check whether a political party having engaged in some criminal activity can be allowed to continue being what they are. Leonard, for 28 years, the PNC rigged elections in Guyana, make us one of the most pauperized states in this part of the world. And now they are doing it again, blatant rigging. So yes, indeed. Leonard, just give me 30 seconds. To the one caller that had raised something, I wish to reiterate that there is Article 21 of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UN Charter, Article 21, that reads that the will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of government. Let me repeat that. The will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of government. This will shall be expressed in periodic and genuine elections, which shall be by universal and equal suffrage, and shall be held by secret ballot or by equivalent free voting procedures.
Wow. Hear that? You have some rights. I thank you for that, Yog. And so we will be heading to the phone lines in a short while. Good afternoon to you both, sir. I've learned so much about elections in this election that I could have done Lowenfield's job better than him, because I can't read and count too. Let me repeat that one there. Very funny, but it's very serious too. Good afternoon to both of you, sir. I've learned so much about election and this elections that I could have done Lowenfield's job better than him, because I can't read and count too. There's another caller online. Good afternoon, caller. Yes, good afternoon, caller. Yonette.
Yes, Mr. Gildarie, good afternoon. I would like to support Mr. Yog in calling on Kaieteur News to printing on the front page, shame Mr. Granger. And I would like him to influence Mr. Leonard to do it from tomorrow and every day until this bunch of animals leave the kennels and pens. Don't stop it every god day. Shame Mr. Granger big on the front page every god day until they left. I would like him to influence Mr. Leonard to do that from tomorrow. Big, real big. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear sir. I would ask Glenn about that. Hi, good afternoon. In my view, all public servants should strike because we as public servants find it hard because we pay taxes and it's not good for us seeing our money spent wasteful. Coming there from a taxpayer. He needs to be jailed. This is Keith Lowenfield, so it's all coming on. A lot of pressure coming on Keith Lowenfield there. Imran Khan is so brainwashed, just as Moses and comrades. I don't have a problem with when a person joins a political party, but you must be honest and uphold the rule of law. Madam Chair needs to be put on record straight and take command and demand the CEO present to her the report as per a statement of recount. North Korea, remember mass games? Yogi, you look like mass games. You took mass games out of my mouth. Coming there from another caller. Let me see. Qualitatively, with regards to the quality, or qualities are something rather than quantity. Quality, standard, grade, class, character classifications, nature, etc. Somebody here is giving us a lesson there what it means. I would like Lowenfield to name the person who are disenfranchised and give us reason for this. He doesn't have to give anything because he has no basis for that. That's my feel. There's a caller on line. Good afternoon, caller. You're here.
Hey, good afternoon, Mr. Leonard. Good afternoon, Mr. Yoke. We are calling from Barbados, in the west coast of Barbados. We, the people of Barbados, are in support for Kaieteur News. We are ready to back you guys to bring a legal challenge to jail Lowenfield. This is suffering has been too much. We cannot take it anymore. He wants to defraud us. We need to get this man jailed. I am in support for Kaieteur News to put on the front page tomorrow. Shame on the rigor, David Granger. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, dear caller. And I want to say good day to all our people down in Barbados who's been listening, tuning in to us daily. From Dr. Yog Mahadeo, myself, our team at Kaieteur Radio, Kaieteur News. Good day to you. I hope that you're staying safe, protecting yourself. And that goes for all who are tuning in and watching us. They're pretty long here. Let me see if there's another one. Hi, good afternoon. Hope you continue to fight for democracy, or to be a time of the 70s and 80s when freedom of speech was a death sentence for anyone who speaks the truth. Yog, I'm not sure if we want to talk a little about what is likely to happen at the Caribbean Court tomorrow. I think the next week, Tuesday, July the 1st, is when the actual arguments and everything is going to be taking place. Tomorrow, what happens?
Well, remember what happened the first day in the Court of Appeal. You know, you would have to set things up, have your initial things done, have persons identify themselves, who's representing whom. You know, so it's more administrative, I would think. It's more getting things done and instructing them to say, okay, by so-and-so day you need to ensure, or by so-and-so time you need to ensure your submissions. Because remember, Leonard, you have to have one side make its filing. You have to have respondents make their filing. The respondent's filing has to go back to the applicant. The applicant has to also answer to the respondent. The good thing is that it's all virtual, and so nobody has to be flying anywhere. But the bad thing is, guess what? I think Sanjeev had raised this point. The bad thing is, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? A private citizen has all of this money to employ lawyers from Barbados and all over the place to fight such cases. So it's amazing. And this is why I believe even more so that we will have to demand that the People's Progressive Party, when they get into power, they conduct a commission of inquiry into GCOM, and there is a complete investigation of these last 18 months of ACNO AFC for what they have brought these people through. Leonard, monies has been paid left, right, and center. Mr. Attorney General is going to these places representing his political party, not the people of Guyana, and he's earning monies, earning salaries from the taxpayers. So there is a lot that we have to, and I must say, I had a little laugh just now. I don't mean to ridicule anyone, but you know, sometimes have a little laugh is good. The people are so fixated on their narratives, Leonard, that somebody has written that Guyana is a Soviet country, and so CCJ cannot take us over.
Absolute. I got to be very careful, Yoga. I'm very emotional today. I see when I see 25% of the votes being erased, I have to be emotional because I want to see the person. I want to remember that person. I always want to see them in the streets to be able to remind them. I want to see where they live because this is something that all Guyana would have to remember for a very long time. Yog, we are going to cut in here to bring back Mayor Motley's. This is CARICOM chair. This is a statement issued by CARICOM this morning, read by the chair. This is Prime Minister of Barbados and chair of CARICOM, Mayor Motley. You should listen to it. We've played it a couple of times. A lot of people have been calling us and they missed it a little. So we're going to play it back for you. Yog, as soon as we finish, we continue here. So.
Many of us have observed with great sadness what has been transpiring in Guyana. It is more than 100 days since the people of Guyana went to the polls, and yet there is no declared result. From the very beginning, we have been clear and said consistently that every vote must count, and every vote must be made to count in a fair and transparent way. Regrettably, we have seen a level of gamesmanship that has left much to be desired and has definitely not portrayed our Caribbean region in the best light. This is definitely not our finest hour, and we must not shy away from that reality. The Caribbean community is concerned at reports that the Chief Elections Officer has submitted a report to the Guyana Elections Commission, which is contrary to the directions given by the Commission and which does not reflect the results of the recount process as certified by the very staff of the Guyana Elections Commission and indeed witnessed by representatives of the political parties. Indeed, these numbers and the certification of them were also witnessed by our CARICOM observer team. They traveled to Guyana in spite of the pandemic and the risk to themselves, and they scrutinized the recount process. The CARICOM observer team was of the unshakable belief that the people of Guyana expressed their will at the ballot box on March 2nd, and that the results of the recount certified as valid by the staff of the Guyana Elections Commission led to an orderly conclusion on which the declaration of the results of the election could and would be made. Therefore, we must ask, on what grounds and by what form of executive fiat does the Chief Elections Officer determine that he should invalidate one vote, far less over 115,000 votes, when the votes were already certified as valid by the officers of the Guyana Elections Commission in the presence of the said political parties? We must remind all that if there is any evidence of fraudulent or improper conduct, then there is a clear and well-accepted route to deal with these matters. It is through an election petition to an election court. Any attempt to provide numbers different from those certified by the staff of the Guyana Elections Commission has left many in shock and wondering what next will happen to frustrate the will of the Guyanese people. The role and focus of political parties must be useful and not obstructive in embracing and promoting the clear and express will of the people. And when we confuse and frustrate that will is when we begin to sow the very seeds of discord and acrimony that we are sworn to dissuade and discourage. The community holds the strong view that no voter must be disenfranchised in determining the credibility of this or any election. It is this commitment to a fair and transparent political process that led CARICOM to send 2 electoral observation missions, one for the elections and one for the recount. In addition, 4 Prime Ministers accompanied me to talk to both sides and to urge patience, especially after the loss of one life. We thank you, the Guyanese people, for that patience. As you await the finalization of this process, we urge again that you be patient and that you be committed to the fact that no electoral process can replace the life of any Guyanese, or anyone for that matter. There must be room for all, regardless of who wins and who loses. I assure you that the community remains committed to the people of Guyana and remains resolute that the report of its observer mission was very clear in its conclusions as to the will of the Guyanese people as reflected in the recount which they monitored.
So thank you for joining us there. That is Mia Motley, chair of the CARICOM, and she's also the Prime Minister of Barbados. And it's heavy criticisms coming in there for the decision of Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield to tender some figures which would have erased, discarded 25% of the valid votes to give the coalition the win. Extremely shocking coming from some quarters. Excuse me. So I want to say thank you for joining us. Elections COVID-19 Watch. We go straight to the phone lines. Good afternoon, caller, you're on the air. We have a call here? Yes. Good afternoon, caller, you're on the air.
Good afternoon, Mr. Gildarie. You found the call me back to say you call me, man?
Yes, I think we were trying to yesterday. As soon as this show is finished, I'm going to call you.
You know my number?
Yes, I think I have the number from yesterday. Thank you very much.
674-1572.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, if you're not joining us, Elections COVID-19 Watch, we're bringing to you live updates with regards to elections 2020. CARICOM came out this morning swinging with a heavy statement criticizing the decision by Keith Lowenfield to tender results, the figures that seems to be coming from nowhere, and which would have effectively taken a quarter of all voters for the March 2nd elections, taking them out of the equation. And by so doing, his figures, fictitious figures, it has been accused now by the opposition, has given the coalition a one-seat majority. So, Yog, we will be heading to the line in a very short while. Do we know at this point in time whether we would have been talking about the UN court, and you spoke about the UN charter and everything there? With regards to that, have we been seeing any statements coming from the United Nations as to what is happening in Guyana here? I think there were some initial statements, but I can't remember anything recently.
Well, Leonard, if this travesty continues the way it is heading, certainly you will see more and more international leaders speak out. And to your point with regards to the UN and all of that, don't forget that on the 30th of this month, we are at the International Court in terms of the first meeting to get this matter with Venezuela, this matter engaging the court's attention, the border issue. So all of these people are looking on. And on the border issue, let me say this, and ladies and gentlemen, this is of extreme importance. Venezuela has now said, why you want us to go to court? Let me sit down and talk about this thing. Let's sit and have a dialogue. Let's have a discussion. Venezuela knows exactly what is happening in Guyana presently. And they know that the APNO AFC people have no authority, no mandate, and no personnel that can go and sit and have such a discussion with them. So when they make such calls, Leonard, they're actually putting a bait out. Because one, if they dangle that bait and APNO and AFC picks it up, it means APNO AFC are acting outside of the mandate of the people. And two, if APNO AFC does not, or if nobody responds to it, if no one responds to it, Venezuela will tell the world that, look, we're reaching out to them. They're not even acknowledging, they're not even responding. That is one example of how serious things can go really bad for us. In terms of all the world, certainly the UN and the better part of the world will be speaking out. But you know what, Leonard? They don't have to speak in words. If this continues going the way it is, Nobody will buy anything from us. Nobody will sell anything to us. That is as serious as it gets. Nobody will buy anything from Guyana, and no one will sell anything to Guyana. You cannot transfer a dollar out or a dollar in. MoneyGram and all of them cannot bring money in the country, and neither can your bank take money out of the country. All trade, all financial and economic transactions will come to a stop. So all those who cry sovereignty, 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 they need to put that in their pipe or whatever it is they smoke, and smoke that.
And at what cost would you want power? To the chagrin of the entire international community? Should it be the displeasure of all Guyana? I'm not sure what's the cost of power, and why should you want to be alone? And we had this talk before you, to all Guyana. When you take power, it is to do something better, something good for the people of Guyana. You want to leave a legacy. What kind of legacy are you leaving by taking power by force, by presenting a coup to the people of Guyana? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what is going through the heads of these people that would say 25%, that would allow Lowenfield. Lowenfield, it's obvious, did not work all alone. He was instructed to do this because who in the right mind would do this, knowing that the whole world is watching, that you take out 25% of the votes? That has been witnessed by everybody. It has been counted twice, not one time, but two times. One time on March the 2nd, or on the evening or the day within that period there. Then the second time during the recount. And it was done, what is a recount only, Yog? It was an audit. They went into almost everything. So for you to take out and say 25%, Yog Mahadeo, do you know whether your vote was counted, Yog?
Exactly.
Do you know?
Exactly. That is the important question you have asked there. Ladies and gentlemen, with what Lowenfield did, none of us know whether our votes were counted or whether he just burned our ballots.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's sad that at this stage he's not being held accountable. He needs to let me know, because I want to take action that my vote must be counted. My vote must be counted. So, Leonard, that is a very important question. Lowenfield has taken unilateral action. Maya Motley says she's questioned by what executive fiat have you done this? So he has taken this on, and I wish to correct something, not correct, I wish to add to what you said earlier, that, you know, there is an intellectual author behind him. But Leonard, he needs to know that he has committed this wrong. He has committed the fraud, and he will have to pay for it. His intellectual authors will remain hidden. When Lowenfield is going to be jailed, do you think his intellectual author is going to say, no, it's not him, I did it? He is the one that has done this and has signed his name to those ridiculous numbers that he has tendered yesterday. And the buck, in this case, for this fraud, will be stopped with him.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely, dear Yog. Let me see if I can read a message. Hi guys, good afternoon. I wonder if Lowenfield... No, I can't do that. You can't ask him with the man children. And you see, we're not going to read this, but you see, Yog, how bad the situation has become. When you take certain actions, there's repercussions. People are asking, they start putting you under the spotlight, ask you about your kids and everything. And I mean, this should not be. This is we mature people. And please don't send anything that's going to bring in people's family. But however, I can understand the feeling. And I think you might put it in a little more diplomatic terms than I can, diplomatic words, when it comes to when you draw in people's children and the family and things like that. Yes, they have done some wrong, and when we should as a people hold them up there, but I'm not sure we could bring in the family and the kids and things like that. However, we do take the point, because people are frustrated, and you're asking if Gildarie does something, should he be ashamed when he stands in front of his family and he has to face them? Yog, is that a reasonable question to ask?
Well, Leonard, people are very frustrated, and you and I mean, I have been out there every morning, every day. You and I are doing it. Every night I'm doing it in our virtual temple. every night in room 592, we are doing it and telling everyone, stay calm, be calm. And be calm, we must. So people are frustrated. I mean, Leonard, the truth is, when a man in Corriverton or in one of the villages in Berbice or in Essequibo or over the river, when they're starving, when that man cannot have meals to feed his children. Remember the kind lady who called in yesterday and cried because 7 children in one home and they could not be fed. When those people are crying for food, how would they feel seeing these people who suck upon the life and blood of this country? How do you feel knowing they're enjoying the good life? They have no moral ground. They have no morality at all. They're in fact criminal, and they have a criminal enterprise backing them. So people are frustrated. But you know what? Today, the people of Guyana feels vindicated, Leonard, because people like Maya Motley has spoken out and has spoken out very, very, very strongly. As I said earlier, it is now putting a lot of pressure, unnecessary pressure on the chairman, because had Lowenfield done his work right in the first place, all of this would not have happened.
Absolutely, there, Yo. Why do you think CARICOM has not sanctioned these individuals involved from travel within CARICOM? A very good question. I think CARICOM has never faced with a situation like this. I don't think any one of these organizations, the ABC and EU countries, they've never faced a Mingo. They've never faced a Lowenfield. They've never faced what would have happened. ABC and EU countries, CARICOM, the OS, the Commonwealth. Our people, we've never gone through. We could have never in the wildest imagination would have imagined that March 2nd, 2020 would have brought on what we would have seen and witnessed. 100, and I think it is 14 days today since the March 11th, since the March 2nd elections. We could not have foreseen what we are seeing right now. Could you have done that before March 2nd? We couldn't. And so here it is, all these organizations, they're extremely shocked. If you speak to the diplomatic community, you're going to see them shaking their heads. They're going to be very careful with the words, how they're saying it to you. But I think I heard in their own little groupings, the words has not been very, very nice. And Yog and I has been talking about it a little earlier. What kind of what is damage done to our reputation? Not only in the region, but across this globe. When we have to sit in various organizations, maybe rule on sanctions for country, take actions, maybe statements against countries which would have been breaking the regulations or which would have been doing things in contravention to the charters that they would have signed on with those organizations. What kind of credibility is Yog and Gildarie going to have when they have broken the rules and the regulations, and they have no leg to stand on? So these are things that we have to face with, and Yog would have raised it. It is an issue that has been raised. What Venezuela is very much aware that Guyana has no government in place right now, and that is something we should be concerned about. Who are they going to talk with? They're saying very clearly, we have filed a case to the International Court, and we have to appear there at the end of the month. We have a situation where for 25 years, before 2016 is going on to almost 30 years now, we have had talks going on with Venezuela to settle this border, to settle it. The United Nations put, I think it's a good officers process Yog, through, I think, Professor Norman Givran, and he would have been there until he died, then that process fell through. Guyana took the decision to go to the International Court of Justice in The Hague. So we are about to have this very big hearing now. So I think there's a jurisdictional part whether the court has jurisdiction to hear this matter on the border. And so we have our own internal thing happening, and Venezuela is standing there, although they have their own troubles. We don't have a united Guyana facing them at the moment, which is what we have been warned against. how do we tell the world that we're together if we can't fix our own problem and the rest of the world coming in and say, you need to fix it? And what you see happening there, a rogue officer or rogue people within the government and GCOM is doing what they feel like has reworked the law to suit them or to twist it, the regulations, to fit them so they could be able to discredit, to dump, to discard 25% of the valid votes. So it is a very, very serious situation which we're facing, and this is not something that should go away. In fact, we're hearing people say that Kaieteur News should be naming and shaming. That is a thing that Glenn and management would have to look into. I think the newspaper understands very, very clearly its mandate to the people. And if that is how our country is going to roll, we have to roll. But it looks as if the newspaper, the whole world has conspired. The whole world has conspired with these people to make it happen, and I'm not sure whether that's a narrative we continue to take. So at this moment here, I think we could probably read the two messages or not.
Leonard, while you're getting to that, if I may, so to what you and I said when we had played Miss Maya Motley's statement at the top of the program, indeed we have seen it happening. I shake my head in shame here now. A lot of the persons on the APNU AFC bandwagon are posting up pictures of Maya Motley and saying all kinds of disparaging comments about her. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, these people posting these things, they want to rule this country. That's their behavior. That's their attitude. To answer the call or the question that was asked about CARICOM and restriction of travel for certain persons, what would happen? Remember the interview we did with Sir James? There is a freedom of movement within CARICOM, right? And so when we would have, if CARICOM was to say that, look, we're gonna expel you, we're gonna expel Guyana from CARICOM, that's when it means all the benefits we're getting from CARICOM in terms of the common external tariff, freedom of movement, freedom of study, and all of that is gone. You know, if we are expelled from CARICOM, if you're expelled from Commonwealth is 54 countries. That is even a bigger problem. Remember, Guyana there's hardly just the CARICOM countries that you don't need visa to go to, and probably a few other countries in the world. But now everybody would demand you must get visa and you have to apply and you got to go through this waiting period, like what the US and Canada requires us to do presently. So, however, Leonard, here is a bigger question that I want to throw back at you, my friend. Given what Lowenfield has done yesterday, given what Mingo did on March 6th or 7th or whenever he did it, on March 13th, given what Mingo did last week and what he has done yesterday, Leonard, given what Granger said about flaking off, Leonard, given what the other gentleman named, all of them from the APNU AFC have said, right? About 5 votes off from each ballot box. Can you imagine what might have happened or what really happened in 2015? Can you imagine what really happened in 2015? Because the government changed hands by a mere 4,000 odd votes. Not 15,000 like now. Can you imagine what really happened then? So this fraud by Lowenfield and the people in there is revealing something else about the entire Secretariat of GCOM and what mischief they might have been up to for a number of years now, Leonard.
Absolutely, Yoga, and these are questions that's going to be around lingering with us for days to come. I think for years, in fact. I think we'd have to relook at ourselves. And I think you and I would have said this before. The people get the government that they deserve, but people are waking up very, very quickly now and demanding that this is not something that they've signed up for, and that they're not going to accept. And so we have a lot of things to really think about. This thing is going to be settled. It's not something that we could tolerate. It's not something that is going to be acceptable. And so when it's all over, we're going to have a lot of things to talk about, to think about. And one of the things that we will not tolerate is going forward is our authorities treating us as if we're the minions, we're people just there to give them a vote every couple of years, 5 years, or every 3 years when it's local government elections. And then after that, they forget us in the interim. And we go back to the 5 years again, they come back, beg us, and we fight, we get angry with each other, and then we go back to the normal thing. It's a vicious cycle. Question, if nothing comes out to put the PPP in government in place, what happens next in the High Court? What happens if nothing comes out of the CCJ in Trinidad and Tobago? What next is it the High Courts? Your interesting question there. If the CCJ does not make a proper ruling or so, is there an option for the High Court, or is that the end of the matter?
That's the end of it. That's the end of it. If the CCJ finds that it doesn't have jurisdiction, then that's the end of it. The decision of the Court of Appeal stands. It doesn't go back into a circle. That is the final court where this matter is concerned. But Leonard, as I said, I would want to ask Mr. Datadin and Mr. Nandalal and Kaieteur Khan and all of the lawyers who have been representing the stakeholders in the courts, why aren't you guys not probably thinking about going to the courts like what you did Mingo's time, to have the court instruct Lowenfield that the laws are very clear where the translation of valid is concerned, and that Lowenfield is not a court and he cannot conduct investigation. And if he acts outside of that, then he will be in contempt of the court.
But
take preemptive strike, guys. Don't always react to what you're dancing to the tune of APNU AFC every day. Take some preemptive action and let's see if we can get things done in a particular way.
But isn't the CCJ case would be a problem there, that you have two separate cases running parallel, or that shouldn't be a problem?
No, the CCJ matter is an appeal of what has transpired in the Court of Appeal, and that is, first, it will be a matter of jurisdiction, and second will be whether inserting the words valid in the section in the article of the laws, whether that is proper, whether it is disjunctive, what are words that they use? I'm sorry, I shared it on my Facebook page this morning. But remember, the Court of Appeal would have used words to say, listen, we know what we are doing is disjunctive, but not absurd. So maybe CCJ will say it was both disjunctive and absurd. That is all. It's either gonna take out the word valid and say it is implied, or it's gonna leave it in there. But the meaning of votes being valid votes cannot change. And Lowenfield cannot put his own meaning to it, Leonard. Neither can anybody at GCOM. It has to be based on the accredited observers that says this election was okay, based on GCOM staff themselves in the process that signed on all the certificate of tabulation for valid votes recounted.
Well, everybody is seeing it. This thing was streamed. This thing was streamed on audio. There was live almost, while it wasn't the video streaming or a live video of the entire proceedings. Everybody was there. All the parties and everything has signed on to certificates of recount. And so
Correct.
When you looked at all of that, when you looked at the fact that CARICOM was there and they would have been observing, but we only talking about the recount there. Let's go back to March the 2nd. Everybody has been there. Carter Center was there. Commonwealth was there. OS was there. Local observers were there. Lawyers were there. Everybody watching, and the whole private sector was there. Everybody said it went well. What is wrong? 25% of valid votes to give coalition win. We have no issues with the coalition winning. I have no issues. I can't have any issues with that. What I have an issue with is the process, the systems and regulations, the procedures that's been used that was supposed to be used in accordance with the law. They have not been followed. Lowenfield took figures which was already presented to the Guyana Elections Commission, and he presented something else. Where did he get 25%? How could you have taken off 25% of the valid votes? Impossible. Something is wrong with his head. There's
Correct.
a caller online. Yes, good afternoon, caller. You're in the air. Yes, good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
First, I'd like to say congratulations to both Dr. Yog Mahadeo and yourself, Leonard Gildarie, for being the voice in the wilderness, a voice that needed to be heard against the oppression of the PNC, against the people of Guyana for almost 50 years. Today, I say that this is a vindication for all the elderly people who have worked as PPP agents, as PPP polling agents, counting agents in the elections from as far back as 1968, who were beaten, downtrodden, thrown out of police vehicles, who had no voice. They are today vindicated for the wonderful work they did for the PPP and for the wonderful cause. Today is a vindication for the Wismar victims, the Enmore martyrs. If you will recall, there was an Enmore bus disaster in 1964 that killed school children. And then there was the Rio cinema bombing where Indian cinema fans went to watch an Indian movie. This was the thuggery that we were subjected to in the 1960s and 70s by the PNC regime. They were beaten by the thugs of the PNC, the House of Israel. Today is a vindication for Father Dark, Father Wong, the Enmore martyrs and the likes. Keep the voice counting, my friends. Keep it going. It's glad to have a voice for the oppressed. Liberation is close at hand. Victory for the PPP. Victory for our citizens. Long live Dr. Jagan, his vision, and the PPP. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller. And Yog, there is a question here from one of our viewers, listeners. I'm sick of this political situation. Do you know if there's any new position with regards to common entrance exam? As far as we know, the common entrance exam is still scheduled for June the 1st and the 2nd. There's been no changes from that. We have not seen any statement from the Ministry of Education. What we could tell you is that you could either, if you have a kid that is supposed to be writing the exams, which is now scheduled for July the 1st or the 2nd, you have a choice. You could either send the kid or don't send the kid. If you send the kid, if you don't send the kid, well then it is very simple. They would allocate a school nearest to where you live in, and then you could always do a placement exam. That is what the Ministry of Education has indicated. There has been no changes to that. They have said that they have put some precautions in place. You wash your hands, distance. There's only, I think, 15 persons who is going to be in one classroom, 15 students. I think we're going to try to get some more information and to bring it back to the people as early as tomorrow with regards to the arrangements that they have for those exams. But that's what we have so far. There's been no changes, no postponement to the July the 1st and the 2nd grade 6 exams. Yog?
Leonard, there is also that statement you made there is a prime example of the consequences of this illegitimate regime. Leonard, you and I have reached out to people in health, in education, in various sectors. And by and large, ladies and gentlemen, people are scared, people are afraid to come out and say anything because they are fearful for their jobs. But them being fearful for their jobs is where the problem is. Because if you're silent men and women, it means you're aiding and abetting the wrong things happening in this country. And Leonard, while all of that is happening, here is where people like us are. We do not have a word to give our children. Exams are near, we have no proper advice. We got to wait on the pleasures of whichever minister feels that she wants to continue to abuse the taxpayers' money and find it's her pleasurable moment to now make a release. Whenever the Department of Political Information can find time to talk about education rather than politics, when they could find a little morality, I think they don't even have a heart anymore, Leonard. But that is a prime example of where things are really, really going wrong quickly. No advice to the children or anything like that. And we know what's happening.
Absolutely, Yoga. And you know what is heartbreaking? My little daughter, my son, they're fortunate. They have internet, and I try to ensure that I could afford that. If nothing else, I sacrifice and ensure with my little salary that they have something there. But there's so many other students, not only on the coastlands, but in the hinterlands also, that would not have access to the internet and therefore would not have been benefiting from the virtual learning, the virtual lessons via the internet that some teachers have been conducting. And so you all wondering, what is going to happen to those kids? How are they going to fare? We're not hearing any kind of statements. We're not hearing any kind of words of encouragement coming from the ministry. If they are doing it, I'm not hearing it. I haven't seen it here. I'm not sure where they would have gotten it. Be of heart. We trying the best we can with the limited resources. I would like to hear languages like that. I'm not hearing anything like that. We just hearing, oh, we're gonna have on July the 1st, July the 2nd. This is the thing. You stand 6 feet apart. So what happened to those kids who probably barely have stuff to eat because of the COVID-19? Whether you like it or not, this is a story. These are the stories that you're hearing from families that people call you from time to time and they ask you, like we just had a call there, what happened? You forgot to call me today, yesterday. And to be honest, it's not that we forgot. I was trying to make some arrangements to see. A couple of people would have contacted us, and we're trying to do whatever we can. I've literally run out of money, and I've been knocking on doors, doing my own little thing. Yoga's been doing the same thing. I think he would be telling you that they've been going to vendors who've been selling wrong provisions and so on, asking them for whatever you have left. And so, let us give it to the people. And it has worked somewhat, but there's only so much that we could do. We could be doing so much more if there is a government in place. Let us not get away from what's the real situation here. And so that is what we're saying. We don't care. I don't care. I don't have an agenda. We've said it before as to which government should be in place. I don't care for the PPP or the APNU, the coalition, that they should be there because I like Yoke face or Yoke like Gildarie face. We want to see the system work. We want the system to continue working. There's no system at the moment. There's a government in transition. The system with the elections is not working. One man has taken it upon himself, the chief elections officer, to take away 25% of the people's votes. So he could put a particular body or a coalition into it. Which we know everybody is saying that he should not do that. He has no authority to do that. And this is in direct contradiction to what the Caribbean Court of Justice was said. Exactly, don't do that. Don't do anything that is going to cause this process that we have before the court to be derailed. He's done exactly that. There's a caller in line. Good afternoon, caller, you're on the air. Yes, there's no caller there. Yoke. Maybe,
so, Leonard,
yes.
If I may add with a word of thanks to Sister Pam Singh, one of our viewers from Antigua has actually called to offer some help. Sister Jean, she doesn't want me to say her name, so I'm just going to say Sister Jean has also called and say she's going to help. A lot of them are interested in helping.
Yes, a lot of people. That's correct.
Yes, specifically given to children. Let me acknowledge my dear brother Imtiaz from Diamond, that has, he has promised another truckload of provision. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't mean a small truck. This is a canter truck, open back truckload filled with provisions that, Brother Imtiaz has promised. Brother Azar last weekend gave us an entire truckload of provisions too. And those are the kind of things we are sharing out. We also have gotten another, between you and I, Leonard, and I'll have to arrange to get it over to you. Hopefully soon. We have another 1,000 or 2,000 masks that we are distributing. And I wish to acknowledge to Pastor Selwyn Sills up in Linden. He has been sewing masks and sharing it out, and he's been doing a lot of work. He asked me not to disclose his name, but sometimes, Leonard, a gentleman like that, we have to say thanks and acknowledge the great work that he is doing in his community.
Absolutely, Yogan. Yes, I must tell you that on our WhatsApp, a lot of persons from Florida and around the place, they've been asking, even from Minnesota and so on, they want to help, they want to give something. And so I think within the next couple hours, we have some work to do to see how we could bring some help. I'm not sure in our limited ways to the people. There's so many people crying, I'm not sure how much we could be able to do, but I guess they say, every little thing that you could do is going to help. We could see there's another caller in line. Good afternoon, caller. Yonette.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Mr. Gildarie and Dr. Mahadeo. I was trying to get on this program a long while. I listened to y'all. Very good comments. And it's just a quick issue if you could just highlight this to me and to the public. This word racial, could you just explain it to the public so that people could be educated? Is one. Two, would the opposition be seated in parliament?
What was the question for the opposition was?
Yeah, so like, they got Basil Williams, Harmon. They say when this election finished with this corrupt system, would they permitted to be seated in parliament as the opposition?
Very good question. Could we take you off here?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Let me answer a part that I've been talking about for a little while, and Yog too. I personally, as a citizen of Guyana, Leonard Gildarie, as a citizen of Guyana, would like to see an opposition that is as strong as can be. Whichever government goes in there, you want an opposition to be seated on the Public Accounts Committee, the Foreign Relations Committee, the Natural Resources Committee, and all those other committees to question the stakeholders, the authorities, and what is happening and the development within those things. There's a reason why, under the context of Parliament, that you would have these various communities being placed in the hands of an opposition. You can't have the government controlling everything. And so when you don't have the opposition not being vibrant, not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that if you have an opportunity to serve, you have a big role to play in Parliament. The Public Accounts Committee is where you take the Auditor General's report and you flesh it out to see what are some of the wrongdoing, some of the red flags that are being raised, how spendings happen, where did they put money. Some contracts would be flagged by the Auditor General. And so when you don't have people there, it is a big issue. So I would like to see a very, very strong opposition that is going to be there. Here's a wonderful opportunity for David Granger. Harmon would have served in his capacity as a very, very good parliamentarian. Camarade Ramzatan, Raphael Trotman, David Patterson, wonderful people in the opposition. Yog, over to you.
Thank you.
We now hear you, Yog.
Sorry, it's a troublesome question. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Because a couple of things that we got to keep in mind. You are absolutely right, Leonard. A country needs a strong government as it needs a strong opposition. If not, the government will run amok, like what the currents are doing anyhow, and it's not good for the people. So you need strong opposition. However, Leonard, can you tell me if Mr. Granger and Basil Williams, as the call is rightly saying, if they got to go sit in the opposition benches, what kind of face they would sit with? And every time they open their mouths, even if they had something good to say, how can you ever treat it with any dignity, any respect? How can you ever look at one of their faces and have any respect for them? So we have a greater battle, a greater challenge ahead of us as a people, because obviously you are going to have an opposition that is lacking of any respectability and integrity, and therefore they are not going to be representing people. All they'll be thinking about, we see it, right? All the set is going to be thinking about, who else can we buy out to get into government next time? Who else can we pay off to get into government next time? Who else can we control? That's all. They're not going to be thinking about the will of the people. They're not going to be thinking about looking after their electorate. They're only going to be thinking about how else they can defraud Guyana and defraud the system for them to get power.
Thank you very much.
So, Leonard, what has to happen is that the voters and the electorate that put them in opposition will probably have to make a decision in the next elections to get rid of them forever, not even letting them get a vote.
Yes, and quickly, room 592, this evening we're going to be back, and that is supposed to be very hot because we're going to be dissecting again the Mia Motley statement there from CARICOM. That CARICOM statement, very devastating in terms of its criticisms of Keith Lowenfield there. What are we likely to see in room 592? Very quickly, Yog.
Well, room 592 tonight, we are good because two amazing statements came out today. Well, three, right? One from the ambassadors, one from the private sector, and of course, one from the CARICOM chairman. So Mr. Jerry Govaya will be joining us in room 592 tonight to talk about the private sector statement and stuff like that. And we're also going to be joined by Mr. Oren Gordon from Trinidad to tell us of the CARICOM and Caribbean perspective of what's going on here and how they view Mia Motley's statement and things like that. We're also hoping to be joined by Mr. Christopher Ram, but I still am awaiting his confirmation, not wanting to put him on the spot on air, of course. But that is one of the possibilities to keep our tabs on the legal side as well. So that is what we're working on tonight. Definitely, though, we're going to have Captain Jerry Govaya and Mr. Oren Gordon from Trinidad joining us in room 592. That is joining both you and I tonight, Leonard.
Thank you very much, dear Dr. Yog Mahadeo. Unfortunately, we out of program time here. Elections COVID-19 watch here. You could get us back. You could get back the copy of this program. You could review it, view it on Kaieteur Radio, on YouTube, on Facebook. And we're going to be back at 7:30 p.m. sharp, room 592. Dr. Yog Mahadeo leading the way this evening. So myself is going to be there too. So I want to thank you very much for joining us wherever you are, all across a beautiful land of ours and from overseas. Thank you again for being part of our family, Kaieteur Radio, and thank you to our technical folks here and to Kaieteur Radio, Kaieteur News, and Mr. Glenn Lyle, our publisher. Have a pleasant rest of the afternoon.